Hello everyone and welcome to another round of Tuesday Night Legacy presented by Spellhold Games. My name is Eugene and this is round 3 from March 15th. We have Ali coming back on camera with his mono black control list, and we have Fred playing a new list, the Omni-Tell list. So control versus a combo style deck that is going to be using the card Show and Tell to get super good cards into play and win through sheer advantage that way. Enough of that, let's get started. We have Fred on the play here, starting with Fetch Land Pass. Ali is going to try and generate a lot of advantage here early in the game, starting out with a turn 1 Thoughtseize, always a good move in pretty much any format. Even though he does have to pay 2 life for the casting of this card, or at least the resolution of this card, he does get to take the best non-land card out of his opponent's hand. I think Fred was thinking about it really hard because he did have that Force of Will, but Force of Willing a Thoughtseize, you lose 2 cards unless you have one card that you really, really want to resolve. Losing that card disadvantage like that isn't really worth it. So Fred shows his hand, and Ali says, "What is this?" Showing the Profane Tutor card, talking about how this is actually a suspend card. Can't actually cast the card. You have to suspend it into play and spend a few turns waiting until it can resolve. Unless there's ways to cheat it into play through like Cascade, things of that nature. But in the end, Ali chooses Show and Tell, the namesake of the deck, being able to put pretty much any permanent type into play besides a Planeswalker. And so you can just drop down a thing like Grizzlebrand or Emrakul, or an enchantment like Omniscience, which would allow you to cast all of your non-land cards for free for the rest of the game. Pretty good. Usually a 10 cast enchantment, casting for 3, so it was a great choice to take. We see Profane Tutor coming down on suspend for 2, and then a Dark Confidant. Profane Tutor being like a Diabolic Tutor, being able to get any card from your deck. You don't have to tell your opponent what it is. Dark Confidant going to be generating some value for Ali. Really important to the mono black control list, as this is one of their only card draw engines. You can see sometimes cards like Castle Lochthwain will allow them to draw extra cards, but just the raw card advantage that the Douthie, or rather the Dark Confidant, creates is going to keep Ali in this game. We see a Douthie Voidwalker coming down. This is actually a newer card, the Modern Horizons 2, but an auto include into the mono black control list. Not only is it basically an unblockable creature with its shadow, but it also exiles. It has the replacement effect that Leyline of the Void does, exiling the grave from the opponent. And just as a bonus, you can tap and sacrifice Douthie at any time to be able to play one of those cards that are exiled with the Douthie Voidwalker replacement effect. So with how many graveyard shenanigans there are in Legacy, pretty good card to have in your main board. We see the Profane Tutor go off. Fred went and got something. More than likely it was a Show and Tell, or it was a piece that he wants to put into play with the Show and Tell. Not entirely certain. But we see a Brainstorm getting resolved here. 2 other swamps in play, so I think Fred is going to try. There's an island. So 3 mana, definitely going to be the Show and Tell. So now both players reveal the card at the same time in order to not give away any extra information. And Fred shows the Grizzlebrand, paying 7 life in order to draw 7 cards. Fred kind of trying to decide whether he wants to activate the ability before the end of his turn or on Ali's upkeep. And Fred decides that it is worth discarding down 1 card, as Ali does have cards that can interact at split-second speed. And I think Fred was aware of that. So even if he tried to go to upkeep, he would not have had access to Grizzlebrand's ability, because we do see the Sudden Edict there, having to sacrifice a creature at split second. He would not have been able to activate Grizzlebrand in response. So a good play by Fred to refill his hand. We see just a 2-cast Turok Dreadcantor, just a 2-1 with protection from white. It can get counters whenever cards are discarded, but sorry about that. But there were no cards discarded, and the kicker was not paid, so just a 2-1. Some damage in with the Dark Confidant. Ali keeping up the Douthie, just in case he wants to grab one of those cards exiled with Fred's into the Fred's exile pile there. Could cast a Brainstorm if he really wanted to. Fred just getting some more mana. Kind of was hoping that the Grizzlebrand was going to get him there for the Omniscience, I think. He's going to have to find another Show and Tell and another Omniscience. I know Cunning Wish can usually help in this situation, but I'm not entirely certain. Yeah, Fred says, this is lethal next turn. Not going to happen. Scoop it up. So here we are in game 2, starting with a fetch land pass. Ali going for just a basic swamp pass. And we see an activation of a Prismatic Vista here and a Dark Ritual in response. Ali casting Opposition Agent. Potentially the biggest blowout play that he could do here. So the 3-cast 3/2 basically allows you to control your opponent while they have search effects. So with that Prismatic Vista on the stack, Ali bringing this in, being able to control Fred for the search effect and exile the land. So this denies Fred his land, and then at any time, Ali can have access to that card that was searched up. So during his next turn, he can play that swamp. So Fred looks very sadly at his hand, decides to pass the turn, as his only other land in hand, I think, is the City of Traders, which he would have to sacrifice, and only makes colored mana. Ali playing that swamp that he searched up for Fred and casting a Thoughtseize. Looking at a hand of a ton of card selection with a Ponder, a Preordain, and a Brainstorm, and then Show and Tell and Baleful Strix. I'm not sure what that last card is. Oh, it's a Flusterstorm, so some counter magic as well. So a ton of, gonna get rid of second Thoughtseize. Gonna get rid of that Ponder and probably another one of the card selections. Yeah, the Preordain. Gonna pass it right back. Didn't draw a land. Even if he did draw a land, if it wasn't a basic land, then he wouldn't even be able to search, as the Opposition Agent effect would go back into play, and Ali would just get another land for himself. So Fred in a pretty tough situation here. We see a Dark Ritual into a Liliana of the Veil. Now they're both discarding cards. Ali only down to 1 card, but in a fantastic situation here. Kind of draining Fred of his dwindling resources, and Ali getting to choose when the cards are discarded. So he just empties out his hand and then makes Fred discard more cards and just swings in with that 3/2. Guaranteed 7 turn finisher. So down to 4 turns left. We see a Surgical Extraction on Ponder just to get that card out of his hand. And we saw that Fred did draw Polluted Delta, so he did get a land off the top, but like I said, fetch lands are no good here. So that's just a dead land sitting on board. I'm not even sure what Fred could draw here to get him out of this situation. I mean, he desperately needs a basic land before anything else. Back to Ali playing a Dark Confidant, getting in for another 3. So this now presents a 2-turn clock. Discarding with Liliana down again. Another fetch land. Seeing a Dark Ritual here as the drawn card for turn. And an Urza Saga. So Ali thinking about how to best use his resources. Gets in for those beats. Casts the Dark Ritual. And then activates... Oh yes. Activates Liliana and then activates Lochthwain. Since he had 0 cards in hand, or 1 card in hand, he only took 1 damage to draw that card off of Lochthwain. And that's going to be the end of our round with Lethal on board. So thank you for joining us. Our round 4 is going to be a blue-white Stoneblade list versus a Yorion Death and Taxes list. So please join us for that. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. It really helps our numbers. Thanks. See you soon.